la tecnologia di Confindustria. Per cui mi fa piacere che sia presente. Ora magari sentiamo anche un intervento dell'assessore che con noi si sta prodigando molto nel cercare di rendere la Sicilia e Palermo in particolare una città attraente, una città che è aperta al mondo esterno, ai mercati stranieri. L'argomento di oggi, che è dedicato al Regno Unito, ritengo che sia molto importante perché ci sono già diverse aziende, specialmente nel settore dell'agroalimentare, che hanno già rapporti e contatti con il Regno Unito. Ringrazio anche la signora Vitale, i signori Prezzemolo, che sono in procinto di aprire una nuova attività sempre nel settore dell'alimentazione a Londra, e ritengo che la presenza dei nostri amici inglesi possa essere per voi anche un ulteriore supporto a quello che state realizzando. L'attività di oggi, come tutte le altre destinate all'internazionalizzazione, è stata benedetta dalla EN, che è l'Enterprise Europe Network, che ci collabora in maniera molto fattiva in tutta l'attività di internazionalizzazione. A tal proposito vi voglio ricordare che il 20 luglio avremo un altro forum sulla Cina e quindi avremo un altro incontro qui. Il 26 ci sarà un'altra riunione, un'altra giornata dedicata all'India, con tutta una serie di informazioni che possono essere utili a chi vuole approcciare questo mercato. E l'8 di settembre ci sarà un altro evento, il Merry Match di Amburgo, che è l'8 e 9 di settembre. Comunque tutte queste informazioni le trovate nella cartella che avete ritirato all'ingresso. Io per il momento non aggiungo altro, vorrei passare la parola all'assessore Marano, che sicuramente ci racconta anche lei qualche cosa di interessante. Grazie.
Buongiorno a tutti. Io devo innanzitutto ringraziare Nino Salerno, SICINDUSTRIA, perché in questa esperienza di sinergia rispetto per esserci ritrovati insieme in un protocollo di intesa, ma soprattutto in un'azione comune nel territorio per promuovere l'internazionalizzazione attraverso l'esperienza del network di European Enterprise, penso che davvero sia per noi un'esperienza, diciamo, molto importante come amministrazione comunale, nonostante la nostra amministrazione comunale, grazie al nostro sindaco, abbia una riconoscibilità internazionale abbastanza diciamo riconosciuta. Lo dico perché Palermo in questi ultimi anni, attraverso diciamo la sua posizione geografica come capitale del Mediterraneo, ha riscosso comunque, anche attraverso il riconoscimento dell'UNESCO, dei riconoscimenti sicuramente importanti e di grande prospettiva per la città. Però dobbiamo fare tutti in modo per traghettare la nostra città, tutti quelli che sono i ponti culturali, e declinarli in opportunità economica, perché i dati di natura macroeconomica ancora ci vedono dentro la crisi. I segnali di ripresa sono veramente ancora molto molto timidi. Allora, noi amministratrici o amministratori siamo chiamati nello svolgimento del nostro ruolo rispetto allo sviluppo economico del territorio a dare una risposta chiara un segnale chiaro alle esigenze delle imprese, poiché la competizione globale non investe solo i singoli attori economici. Siamo convinti, così come ci insegnano tutti i grandi economisti, che riguardi il sistema paese. Per essere efficace in una logica di sistema è la soluzione quella di provare a fare fronte comune con i soggetti per remare tutti in una stessa direzione. Quindi il nostro obiettivo è quello di svolgere un ruolo di facilitatrice in relazione a tutti quegli eventi che possono supportare le imprese cittadine nel loro sviluppo economico, nel quale siamo convinti che l'internazionalizzazione insieme all'innovazione svolgano un ruolo chiave, decisivo. Quindi noi siamo su questo fronte interessati, proprio con un paese nel dopo Brexit come la Gran Bretagna, a stabilire un rapporto che non deconsolidi e non destabilizzi tutti quelli che sono già i canali, i ponti costruiti, i rapporti e le relazioni che mettono in contatto quotidianamente le nostre imprese con quei territori. Il tema che ho visto peraltro affronta, diciamo, proprio in chiave dopo Brexit una serie di punti in cui penso i nostri giovani, le nostre ragazze, i nostri ragazzi, che costituiscono un flusso decisivo, importante, piuttosto considerevole in termini numerici, e hanno visto sino a ieri Londra come la capitale di una meta importantissima da traguardare per la loro realizzazione professionale. Oggi ha in qualche modo messo, diciamo, delle ansie, o ha in qualche modo creato sicuramente dei problemi. Ho visto che lo schema, diciamo, della discussione che si fa oggi pone, tra l'altro, fa un focus su questi che possono essere, diciamo, i dubbi, le ansietà che molti dei soggetti che oggi hanno lavorato o pensano di lavorare con Londra hanno. E io da questo punto di vista ritengo importantissimo quindi un dialogo che rafforzi, crei, così come annunciato il sindaco di Londra, e crei comunque, diciamo, un clima di rassicurazione per tutti quelli che già lavorano a Londra e per tutti quei soggetti economici che puntano ad una relazione di sviluppo e di consolidamento di questi rapporti. Tra l'altro la nostra ambizione è quella di intravedere un flusso che fino ad oggi ha visto tanta gente dal nostro territorio, tanti soggetti del nostro sviluppo locale andare in direzione della grande attrattività economica che Londra rappresenta. Noi abbiamo oggi un sogno, un'ambizione che nonostante Brexit si possa, diciamo, realizzare una sorta, diciamo, di passaggio bidirezionale, cioè noi siamo pronti a candidarci anche come una terra in cui lo sviluppo delle relazioni muova flussi da Londra nei nostri confronti. Lo dico per quello che riguarda lo sviluppo turistico, lo dico per tutti quegli indicatori che oltre il turismo vedono nella produzione agroalimentare, ad esempio, un segnale di ripresa, di grande diciamo, vivacità economica, e che quindi può rappresentare una premessa per potenziare tutte quelle relazioni di scambio a cui il nostro, diciamo, sogno di visione di città che geopoliticamente ha un ruolo strategico nel Mediterraneo possa vedere anche investimenti che arricchiscano e rendano più efficaci i rapporti economici tra queste due realtà importanti. Con questo voglio augurare buon lavoro, sono convinta che potremo insieme stabilire prossime scadenze per fare dei workshop tematici che possono proprio riguardare quei settori in cui le start-up di impresa dei nostri territori, ma anche quelle inglesi, possano trovare, oltre le imprese già presenti, un terreno di scambio, di confronto produttivo e proficuo per la crescita di tutti. Grazie.
Benissimo, grazie all'assessore Marano. Volevo salutare e ringraziare la loro presenza la dottoressa Stassi dello Sportello Sprint e Anna San Giorgi di Arca, che in questa attività svolgono un ruolo molto importante perché sono parte integrante del progetto.
Ho sbagliato io.
Anche il consorzio Catania Ricerche è inserito in questa attività. Non so se c'è qualcuno presente, ieri sicuramente sì, no, oggi no, mandato la giustificazione. Va bene, allora a questo punto io passerei la parola alla dottoressa Vanessa Romer, che è qui, sì, se lo credo opportuno, sì, ecco, che affronterà da un punto di vista tecnico tutte le opportunità di investimento che sono sul tavolo. Forse lo vediamo meglio di là.
Grazie, me lo sono scordato.
Allora, buongiorno a tutti, è un piacere essere qui a Palermo. Si sente così un po' male con questo? No? Magari faccio così, è meglio. Con? Ok. Quindi...
Maybe this one's better. Maybe actually you should do it.
So just sit down there.
Relax. Yeah, let's exercise. Quindi mi siedo qua adesso. Allora, no, volevo anzitutto ringraziare la SICIndustria per aiutare a organizzare questo UK Forum, quindi grazie mille Giada, Nino anche. E quindi la idea è proprio di questo... La idea di questo forum è proprio di darvi un po' di informazioni sul mercato di Londra, un po' delle opportunità di investimento che ci sono lì, anche la parte di collaborazione e dimostrare tutto l'appoggio che avete delle entità private e pubbliche come London Partners, UKTI, MedCity, tutto quell'appoggio che un'azienda ha bisogno quando viene a investire sulla nostra capitale. Quindi io sono Vanessa Romer, che sto rappresentando London Partners. London Partners che cosa sarebbe? Proprio è l'azienda ufficiale per promuovere Londra internazionalmente. Cosa vogliamo? Vogliamo proprio attrarre dei visitatori, e studenti e business sulla nostra capitale. Siamo finanziati dal sindaco da Londra e dai nostri commercial partners. Quindi siamo una società not for profit, public private partnership. È proprio lunga. E quindi i nostri servizi sono completamente gratuiti e quello che vogliamo è proprio facilitare il setup di un'azienda quando viene a investire sul nostro territorio, e anche quelle che ci sono presenti vogliamo proprio aiutare a fare crescere, a espandere. Per questo abbiamo 5 dipartimenti, na verità, sulla nostra azienda. Abbiamo il dipartimento di High Education, quindi per attrarre tutti gli studenti, un dipartimento di Major Events, quindi attrarre large events che ci sono sulla capitale, come abbiamo organizzato l'Olimpiade, Ride London, quindi grandi eventi che succedono sulla capitale. Il dipartimento di consultancy, però questo è un dipartimento più, posso dire, a livello governativo, proprio per fare la condivisione delle nostre esperienze, delle best practices che abbiamo fatto sulla nostra città a fare con altre città. Però questo è l'unico dipartimento, posso dire, che sia a pagamento. Okay? E alla fine il dipartimento di business, di FDI, proprio di attrarre l'investimento sul nostro territorio, in quello che lavoro io. Quindi come possiamo proprio aiutare l'azienda? Qual è il supporto che possiamo dare? Quindi ci sono possiamo dare dei market research che l'azienda ha bisogno, magari se bisogna avere una informazione legale, fiscale, avete bisogno di uffici o magari di un negozio, PR, marketing, quindi tutto questo appoggio operativo possiamo dare. Come succede? Noi, come proprio il nome dice, London and Partners, quindi noi siamo il punto di contatto per le aziende per connettarsi nell'ecosistema londinese. Quindi tutti i nostri commercial partners, abbiamo per esempio avvocati, commercialisti, quindi tutti questi possono dare la prima consulenza completamente gratuita a tutti i nostri clienti. Questo che non lo so se sapete, però a Londra magari anche per parlare con un professionista top end si paga. Quindi anche per questo primo incontro possiamo facilitare e fare con che l'azienda risparmi un pochino quando arriva su Londra. Una delle nostre offerte, chiamiamola touchdown, è proprio un soft landing space, è un coworking space in cui l'azienda può andare lì, utilizzare l'indirizzo per incorporare la società inglese, avere dei meeting rooms disponibili per fare dei incontri con i loro clienti, però questo è solo per una persona fino a un anno. È proprio quello aiuto iniziale per fare spingere, per sviluppare il negozio. Per esempio, lavoriamo con Central Working, che è uno dei nostri commercial partners, che hanno possiamo offrire una desk per 149 sterline, più VAT, in diversi posti su Londra. Anche con I2 Office, un altro commercial partner, con loro possiamo offrire per 107 sterline più VAT. Un altro supporto che possiamo dare anche e ancora aiutare a risparmiare quando state arrivando sul mercato è Free Trial Membership con diverse camere di commercio che ci sono a Londra. Una volta siete lì, fare proprio la networking è molto importante. E ci sono delle aziende pubbliche e private che aiutano a fare questo. Per esempio a London Chamber of Commerce, che la mia collega Vanessa parlerà un pochino di più dei loro servizi. Abbiamo la Camera di Commercio italiana, la Camera di Commercio spagnola, francese, tedesca, quindi di tutti i paesi ci sono su a Londra. Non so se sapete, però a Londra ci sono diverse comunità. Come Londra è una città cosmopolitana, quindi hanno creato queste camere di commercio per aiutare il loro business community, posso dire. Quindi, per esempio, se tutte le aziende italiane ci sono questo supporto, un club membership, posso dire, per le aziende italiane che ci sono a Londra. Okay? Un altro supporto che diamo ai nostri clienti anche sono informazioni su tutti gli eventi che succedono sul mercato. Per esempio adesso abbiamo appena completato la London Tech Week, 2 settimane fa. È una settimana ripiena di eventi, con più di 200 eventi succedendo sulla nostra capitale. Abbiamo anche adesso inizia la FinTech Week, quindi per le aziende nel settore tecnologico e finanziario. Poi a settembre abbiamo London Design Festival e abbiamo anche la Fashion Tech Summit, perché a Londra adesso c'è molta questa convergenza delle aziende, per esempio in fashion, con il settore tecnologico. Quindi c'è molta opportunità di investimento in questi convergenze di questi settori. Un altro supporto adesso che possiamo dare anche alle aziende. Una volta stabilita, siete un'azienda londinese, abbiamo questo Mayors International Business Program, che è proprio per aiutare le aziende nel settore tecnologico, life science e urban a entrare in altri paesi. Quindi ci sono delle mentoring, bespoke mentoring, posso dire, workshops, trade missions, quindi andare a portarsi proprio al market e cercare anche di fare lead generation, proprio di incontrare altri business per fare partnerships, collaborare. Questi sono qualche cliente che sto dando supporto. Per esempio abbiamo come clienti Versace, Photo Spotland, Ili, questi sono tutti nel mercato italiano, ok? Moleskine, Scavolini, quindi potete vedere, noi aiutiamo tutte le aziende, tutti i settori e tutte le dimensioni, ok? E allora perché Londra? Perché che le aziende sono così, vogliono così entrare sul mercato londinese, ok? Da Londra riesce ad avere l'accesso non solo al mercato inglese, però al mercato europeo e anche fuori. Lo so che c'è la Brexit, c'è questo, però io penso che adesso è un momento proprio un po' di ansia, no? Come hanno detto, un po' di panico, però trade penso che continuerà. No, io penso che l'Inghilterra dipende dal mercato europeo come l'Europa dipende dalla Inghilterra, quindi la trade continuerà. E a Londra siamo proprio pro business. La verità, come sapete, Khan, il nostro mayor, era pro European Union. E stiamo, na verità, adesso stiamo anche cercando, stiamo parlando con tutti i nostri clienti, con tutte le aziende, anche per prendere delle informazioni, delle opinioni, per portare al mayor e poi influenzare sulle decisioni di tutte le regulations che faranno. Quindi, come potete vedere, a Londra ci sono su 8,4 milioni di persone che vivono su London e Greater London. Non solo il domestic market, però ci sono tutti i visitatori. Tutti quei international visitors che vengono a Londra sono più o meno su 17,4 milioni che vengono a Londra di turismo e spendono sulla nostra capitale, ok? Per le aziende in retail, posso dire la parte di online retail adesso è molto grande su Londra, si spende più o meno sull'UK in totale, si spende su 104 bilioni sono spesi online. Quindi il mercato consumatori inglesi facciamo in verità tutto online. Io per esempio posso dire vestiti, supermercato, tutto online. È molto difficile andare proprio al negozio per comprare. E questa è un'opportunità che avete quando siete lì è proprio fare un complemento del vostro negozio, complementare con la vendita online. Io questi giorni proprio sono andata a un concerto e sono rimasta un po' scioccata, anche ho deciso di guardare un po', girare un po' intorno. Non so se siete andati in concerti questi giorni, però ho visto tutte le persone con un telefonino acceso, con il flash. Non so se... Io mi ricordo che prima tutti portavano un accendino, sì? E adesso no, erano tutti Io mi sono fermata un attimino per pensare a quella cosa, ho detto, sai che è vero, adesso facciamo tutto con il telefonino. E posso dire che l'online sales, 1/3 dell'online è fatto su un telefonino. Siamo molto mobile, no? A Londra c'è proprio questo accesso al talento, quindi è una città, ci sono persone da tutto il mondo, multiculturale, cosmopolita. Per esempio, io sono brasiliana, c'è la Vanessa che è greca, John australiano. Phil, where are you from?
From Canada.
From Canada? Quindi ho visto che sono persone di tutto il mondo, sono lì su Londra. E ci sono 4 dei top 6 universities, sono come King's College, Imperial College, sono lì. E sono sul 70% degli studenti che vengono a Londra, alla fine rimangono lì sul mercato. Londra, il UK in generale c'è proprio un business friendly environment. Okay, siamo molto pro business. La parte per incorporare una società ci metti 24 ore. Non ci sono tante burocrazie. Non lo so, qui in Italia penso che ci metti un pochino in più, no? Per incorporare un'entità italiana. Lì a Londra no. In 24 ore riesci a avere proprio il registro sulla Companies House e iniziare a operare. Corporation tax siamo su 20% su profit e questo vogliamo ridurre a 17% e dopo del Brexit hanno detto magari su 15%, quindi per fare proprio tax haven. So, vediamo, no? Però questo non è, questo non è ancora stabilito, quindi però ci sono delle conversazioni di questo. Per la parte anche di research and development, questa è una cosa che cerchiamo proprio di attrarre per fare con che le aziende vengano lì e fare research and development. Questo John parlerà un pochino in più quando parlerà un po' della parte di innovation negli UK. A Londra ci sono tantissimi headquarters che ci sono a Londra. Vuol dire 40% dei world's top companies, le aziende più grosse, hanno headquarters su Londra. Quindi possiamo vedere proprio a Londra c'è proprio la parte del commercio e della cultura combined, insieme. Quindi dobbiamo lavorare, però anche dobbiamo avere la parte sociale. Quindi lì ci sono le opzioni di ristorante, sono grandissime, di concerti, delle musiche, teatro, quindi tutta la parte culturale anche che è molto importante ci sono su Londra. E Londra è la innovation capital qui dell'Europa. Io ce l'ho un video che volevo mostrare della Tech City, così potete avere un assaggino di che cosa è questa Tech City che abbiamo fatto su Londra.
Ma è quello che stai davanti.
È quello, sì.
London's always been an amazing marketplace, been an international melting pot.
We're more international than anyone. We've been a historic trading city for hundreds of years.
Because we've got great thinkers, great creative thinkers.
The starting point was much more about creativity and lots of different creative disciplines sort of falling together and focusing on technology as the output.
Have actually found such an incredible team in East London, and I think that they're some of the best in the world.
In terms of access to talent, access to markets, access to capital, there isn't a better place in Europe. And that's the opportunity for startups right now, is to think about a marketplace of 5 billion people and to use London as the springboard to reach those markets.
It's an amazingly vibrant place, and it's full of great talent, and it continually attracts great talent from all over the world. It really is an engine for innovation and for culture. So there's a lot of really innovative companies that started and are founded here.
I can't think of anybody I've met in the world that wouldn't love the opportunities to spend time in London.
We've been very fortunate to be able to connect the cultural strengths we have with an amazing policy environment and a really strong ecosystem now to support high-growth technology companies.
Turn the corner in London, you find something new, and that's always a great thing. And we're sort of discovering that with the people who come and want to use our technology, is that they've all got brilliant and just unique ideas.
We have a very well-established creative culture. We have some of the best creative universities and arts facilities in Europe, if not arguably the world.
London, through Tech City, is really starting to get this global cachet of being the place where interesting, exciting things happen, and we feed off that.
What we have here in London is very, very special. We lead in mobile. We lead in financial services.
We're immensely proud here at Framestore of our work on Gravity. It's a great British success story. It's wonderful to have won 7 Academy Awards and to have that recognition.
I think London is an adventure every day, and that's something that I find truly inspiring.
Quindi aveva visto proprio questo assaggino di che cosa succede lì su Londra, sulla nostra Tech City. Quindi che cosa è questa Tech City? La Tech City è proprio è un cluster tecnologico per tutte le aziende nel settore di tecnologia che ci sono concentrate sulla parte leste di Londra. Cosa è successo? In 2010 penso che Cameron ha deciso proprio di investire sulla capitale per mettere Londra come la capitale della innovazione e della tecnologia dell'Europa. Quindi hanno avuto tantissimo investimento su questa regione proprio per attrarre queste aziende che prima c'erano tantissime aziende nel settore creativo e poi piano pianino tutte queste altre aziende sono messe lì e quello locale che hanno proprio rigenerato tutta la regione, che era una regione, posso dire, anche un po' brutta e sporca, tutto, quindi hanno proprio rigenerato tutta quella zona per creare questo cluster tecnologico e diventare come il Silicon Valley dell'Europa. Lì ci sono tantissime collaborazioni di aziende tecnologiche, delle università, quindi è questa collaborazione che facciamo. Per esempio, anche venuto anche con questa tunica. Volevo dimostrare. Questo qui è fatto proprio di 3D, è un 3D printing, che è la nuova tecnologia, quindi è proprio questa convergence della fashion. Il gatto, no. È la convergence della fashion con tecnologia. Quindi in questo Digital Hack Lab il dottor Sean Borstrock ha iniziato, perché ancora per la parte fashion, questo 3D printing, ancora deve sviluppare. Loro sono stati i primi che sono riusciti a fare un capo che si può utilizzare completamente, non si spacca, è giusto, si può utilizzare, quindi già inizieranno a commercializzare questo prodotto. Quindi lì a Londra ci sono tantissime tech companies, the leading ones, come per esempio Facebook, hanno una... È una bella domanda, ho chiesto, loro mi hanno detto che adesso loro stanno organizzando tutti, stanno facendo la collezione e vediamo, poi vi faccio sapere. Quindi c'è Eventbrite, LinkedIn, Facebook, IBM, Yammer, quindi Google, quindi tutte queste aziende hanno una presenza su Londra. A Londra ci sono anche tantissimi incubators e accelerators. Per esempio, se volete utilizzare una di queste istituzioni, vale la pena vedere qual è il vostro settore e andare in quello giusto per voi. Per esempio, c'è la Health Box, che sono per le aziende nel settore di life science, che dopo Phil sarà più in grado per dire un pochino in più per voi. C'è Level 39 per le aziende nel settore fintech, Google Campus, tutti start-up riescono ad andare lì, è proprio una verità, loro hanno una parte comunale, un caffè, che potete andare lì con il suo laptop, si riescono a trovare un posto perché è sempre pieno, lavorare proprio da lì, danno dei mentorship gratuite, e quindi è proprio per incentivare questa comunità tecnologica. E c'è anche iStarter, che è il primo accelerator italiano che c'è a Londra. Quindi loro stanno cercando anche di portare tutte le aziende italiane, stanno cercando di fare il scale up di queste aziende sul nostro territorio. Per la parte di funding, posso dire brevemente che non ci sono quelli, diciamo, dei grants che il governo può dare così alle aziende. La cosa che facciamo è proprio nella parte del corporation tax molto basse, anche per la parte di research and development, che riescono a avere dell'investimento indietro. Però ci sono delle associations, come Seeders, Crowdcube, Angel Investors, Venture Capital Firms, con cui potete approcciare per avvivare questo investimento. Noi da London Partners, penso che fino a agosto-settembre, questa è una cosa nuovissima, stiamo ancora finalizzando, stiamo facendo un VC Club, quindi proprio per fare matchmaking dei nostri clienti con dei venture capital firms. E a Londra, nella Tech City, c'è proprio questa comunità, questo senso di comunità, quindi è quella parte di collaborazione. Se ho un'idea, posso compartilhare con altre persone, facciamo una cosa insieme per andare avanti. Ci sono degli eventi, per esempio Silicon Drink About, per le startups, che fanno ogni venerdì alla sera un incontro molto informale proprio per fare questo scambio di idee. Quindi se volete venire a Londra, potete... qui ci sono tutti i miei contatti, potete mandarmi una mail, un messaggio qualsiasi, farmi una chiamata, che sono contenta di di poter dare il supporto. Quindi allora passo la parola alla mia collega Vanessa della London Chamber, che spiegherà un pochino il loro servizio. Grazie.
Buongiorno signore e signori, mi chiamo Vanessa Vlotides e sono la responsabile del Dipartimento Internazionale della Camera di Commercio e Industria di Londra. But I will continue in English. Before I start, I would like also, on behalf of the London Chamber of Commerce, to thank SICINDUSTRIA for organizing this event. As SICINDUSTRIA is one of our EEN partners, and we work really closely with them, and I will talk about this a bit later during my presentation. So I will talk about joining the London business community. So once you've already got this appetite now from Vanessa, so I assume you're all interested in doing business in London. So I will talk about that. So obviously, we all agree that London is a vibrant city of opportunity that welcomes international companies looking to expand and grow. So when a company sets up in London, the support does not stop there. If you set up a business, as my colleague Vanessa said earlier, through London and Partners, you can get 1 year's free membership at the London Chamber of Commerce. I must say that most of the London Chamber of Commerce members are London-based companies, but we do have UK-based companies which are not necessarily from London as members, and we also have non-UK companies as members. So an Italian company could become a London Chamber member if there were enough benefits for them. So I will explain all the networking opportunities now. So let me speak a little bit about the London Chamber of Commerce first. We are part of the global community of chambers under the auspices of the ICC World Chambers Federation based in Paris. The difference between the chambers in the UK and in countries such as France and Germany is that membership in the UK is voluntary, whilst membership here is compulsory. You have to be a member of your local chamber. Which is different with us because our members choose to be our members. But we are all chambers which are run for the benefit of business and trade, and we all collaborate strongly. So our chamber, London Chamber, is the capital's largest independent networking and business support organization, representing the interests of thousands of companies. LCCI connects businesses and people and offers members a wide range of valuable business services, which can be summarized in 3 words, which is also our motto. So connect, influence, support. I will speak about these 3 words separately and how we apply them and use them. Connect. So why do you join the London Chamber? The most compelling reason for joining is for networking with other business. London Chamber runs over 100 events each year, enabling members to make new business connections. Networking at these events offers companies the ability to meet a wide range of decision makers and influencers and to build their own business network. Over 12,000 people attend our events each year. Am I too fast? You want to slow down? Okay. The London Chamber of Commerce events have been named the best networking events in the UK by the British Chambers of Commerce. So what do? We provide the settings and the platforms. We invite important keynote speakers from government, from business, depends on the event. We choose exceptional venues, and we also organize special events. Venues. You can see here one of our events at the Museum of London and another event at the Sky Bar. These are just some indications of our summer and winter receptions. And here are events combined with sport. So you have golf events, cricket events, and the famous Ascot horse racing. These are all platforms for networking. Then we have specific sector-focused events or special interest events. We have the Asian Business Association within the Chamber, which is the most important forum for Asian businesses in London. Asian Business Association events attract high-profile guest speakers and audiences from Asian and non-Asian businesses. But here, when we're talking about Asia, we're talking about countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, that type. We have special defense and security events. These events attract major players from these industries and attract high-level speakers. Property and construction-focused events. So this is for businesses which are involved with property building, developing, planning, design, and construction. And of course, we have these committees in the chamber. So that's why we run these events. We have special meetings on these topics, special committees, and we do a lot of work on these topics. So PA events, here I mean personal assistants, because in London, personal assistants play a very important role. They're the ones who take the decisions. So we have events, especially for them, with prestigious venues and restaurants that are London Chamber of Commerce members, and we give them the opportunity to network and share experiences with each other. Influence. So of course, as we are not government and we are private, we are apolitical, so we can lobby. We can also lobby against the government if we don't agree. So one of our biggest roles is lobbying on behalf of our members on a variety of business topics. London Chamber is known as the voice of London business, with direct access to senior political figures and influencers. Most of our 2,300 members are based in London, as I said earlier, and therefore might be facing same problems. So we lobby and we prepare reports. We do research on topics such as transport, local, international connectivity, third airway, Heathrow, housing, skills of the workforce, international trade. Here are some examples of the reports that we have produced on these topics. On the support side, we have information for our members. This is only for membership, this information. So we provide company information, credit reports, profiles of companies, products and services sourcing, and brand searching in the UK and worldwide. We provide mailing lists of people and companies with contact details across every sector, size, and locations. Our members find this extremely useful because they use these lists as mailing lists because they come in downloadable Excel forms. And we provide business research and industry statistics. We have a monthly magazine. I believe I've left some copies outside. This is monthly. It's in a printed version. It's also online. You can access it through our website if you want to keep updated with London business community and information and news. This magazine has a readership of over 18,000, and members can provide information on their company or offers from the magazine. This might be of interest to you. So this is what our members lounge looks like now. So if you are a member of the London Chamber, you can have your meetings at our members lounge. We are in the city, so we are very central. So this could be your office at the beginning, before you establish your office with London and Partners in London. We are now renovating the entire building, so it will not look like this in 6 months. It will look even better. So that's another thing that you could take advantage of. Now, international trade. We are the largest issuer of export documents in the UK. We provide all range of documents used in international business, such as certificates of origin and ATA carnets. And now this is my department. So we run an annual program of 40 country-specific events, seminars, and receptions, 10 to 12 trade missions. We host incoming foreign delegations. We run international training courses for exporters, and we deliver EU projects on internationalization and SME development. Here are some examples of our events. So they could have a country focus, like doing business in China, for example, or it could be a combination of a country and a sector, such as property and construction opportunities in Saudi Arabia. Business clinics, we bring in an expert on a sector or a country, and we organize 20-minute or half an hour one-to-one slots with the companies so they focus on the exact company's needs. We host incoming delegation, as I said earlier, so you can see, for example, delegations from Saudi or from China. We organize matchmaking events, such as our colleagues here do as well. Training courses, topics are covered as such as international VAT, letters of credit, export documents, everything an exporter, a new exporter needs to know. We organize trade missions. Trade missions, we do the traditional LCCI trade missions. We are the delivery partner for the Mayor's International Business Program that, again, Vanessa mentioned earlier. So we deliver the missions for the Mayor. We deliver missions for private sponsors. So sometimes we have, for example, big banks that come to us and say, can you organize a mission for us? So we delivered missions for Santander to Brazil or to Mexico. Heathrow Airport asked us to organize a mission for them, so we delivered one to Colombia, and so on. EU projects, and how do we work with SICINDUSTRIA? So, as I mentioned earlier, we are all part of the Enterprise Europe Network, and we are also involved in 2 other projects currently, Eagle 1 and Eagle 2. I don't know if I should talk about the EEN. I assume everybody knows what the EEN is. So, Eagles. I don't know if you're familiar with the Eagles project. The project aims to enhance cooperation between European trade promotion organizations and the European Commission, with the result that there will be an even better trade promotion service available to SMEs. In short, during 2015-16 and early, I think, beginning also of half the year of 17, the Eagle project partners, we are 6 partners. So we are UK, Italy, Belgium, Greece, Hungary, Lithuania. We'll be organizing a series of events, meetings, and running joint European company missions to non-EU countries. So the first one, whoever hasn't joined has missed his chance. No more places. Is to the UAE. I believe, is there anybody here who is actually coming with us to the UAE? You're coming with us. Okay. So this is a multi-sector mission, but it does focus on women in business, because we will having quite a lot of meetings with the women business associations in the market. We have 52 companies on this mission. As you can see, 10 from the UK, 10 from Greece, 10 from Italy, 7 from Hungary. It's a big delegation. We're going to be 81 people in total. You can see a little bit what the inside of the brochure looks like. The next one, I think it was previously mentioned as well here, is to India. You can still join this one. It is on the 21st to the 25th of November. It is multi-sector, and I believe our colleagues here are going to run an India event on the 26th of July. So if you're interested in the event, or even if you're interested in the mission, please speak to Jada. Yeah, it's in the... Then we have the mission to Iran, which is planned to take place in May. And that is a multi-sector one. And then we have one going to Taiwan in June, and that is focusing on food sector related industries. The difference between these missions and a traditional mission is that you are not going as an Italian delegation. We are not going as a UK delegation. We are going as a European delegation, and everybody will have the same meetings with the organizations in market, but also you will have the opportunity to network with your European counterparts. So I would like to thank you for your attention. I'm here all day. If you have any questions on the London Chamber or any of these projects, feel free to grab me. Thank you very much.
No, se ci sono domande, qualche cosa da chiarire, no? Sì, facciamo una pausa e riprendiamo fra pochi minuti, dai.
SICINDUSTRIA e quindi passo subito la parola a Phil Jackson, Medicity UK, direttore Medicity.
Buongiorno. I apologize. I'm actually going to speak in English. My second apology is for most of our politicians who are even worse than our football team. So, without further ado, I will speak to you about MedCity. For those of you not in healthcare or not in the healthcare industry, not in biotech or medtech, I apologize. You may want to go for a wander because this is solely going to be focused on the life science sector in the UK, the medical technology and digital health sector in London and the Southeast, the so-called Golden Triangle. So first I'll talk a little bit about MedCity. MedCity was set up by King's Health, Imperial College and UCL. Now has links with both Oxford and Cambridge, and those are the 5 top UK universities and some of the top universities in the world. They are our founders, and they established us to work with them on the commercialization of science, the commercialization of knowledge, and the promotion of international research consortia, global collaborations. We work in conjunction with UKTI, but we independently work all over the world. That could be Japan on regenerative medicine. It could be partnerships in Eastern Europe on science parks. So we are about growing and supporting the health innovations within healthcare, innovations within biosciences, and innovations within medical technology. So I'll walk you through some of the things that we do, and I will also go into some detail around Brexit and the implications for the health sector as we know it so far. So within the Golden Triangle, and the Golden Triangle is literally an area 60 miles by 60 miles by 60 miles. Think of a triangle. Within that is the highest concentration of research intensity in healthcare, second only to Boston. It's by far the largest in Europe, and it's the fastest growing biotechnology cluster in the world. It's actually growing faster than Boston. Within there are 3 of the top 5 medical schools in the world. There is no denser cluster of medical research anywhere in the world. So yes, Boston has got considerable capacity. The Bay Area in the States has enormous capacity. But in terms of geographic proximity to large-scale, major research, there is no other parallel. And so we've seen over the last decade an almost explosive growth in biotechnology in particular, around the Cambridge area and around central London, and a major expansion in the activities of the major universities commercializing their science. Imperial College is the largest commercializer of science in the UK and second only in Europe. They themselves spin out companies on numerous bases. They run 2 of their own incubators and are just about to announce a major 25-acre new development with an 11-story incubator being created at White City in London. And so it's highly research intensive, it's highly competitive, but it's highly connected to a very, very strong science base. And the science base, more than any other factor, is the driver for growth. Without solid science, the UK biotech sector would not exist. The foundation is basic science and basic research on an extremely high level. What we are increasingly seeing is also moves by venture capital from the Boston area, setting up in London. Why? Because the Boston market was considered overheated in terms of the cost of life science shares, biotechnology shares, and for comparable science, you are paying considerably less in the UK than you would be in the Boston market. So we have seen a significant shift from Boston into London, which is very good for us. Rather like many parts of Europe, we don't want to see the companies that we create and the science that we create grow to a certain size and then leave to go to New York to raise capital. Our goal is to basically work internationally across Europe and across the world to keep those companies growing at home in global partnerships with other companies elsewhere. And so, for example, we have an extremely collaborative relationship with the University of Barcelona, as one example. The University of Barcelona has a problem, and it's a problem not uncommon in many European countries. Very, very good, high-quality science. Very, very good research. Limited access to venture capital, virtually no access to angel capital. So we've been working with them, and they're one example, to help them set up their own incubator in London so they can bring Spanish firms who are spun out of their university to access the capital markets in London to grow while retaining a home base in Barcelona. That's what we mean by international partnership. And that was a collaborative effort. The same is true in numerous projects that we do across Europe. And we will continue to do those regardless of what happens with Brexit. Because science is international. Science was international before the EU. Science will be international regardless of what position we end up taking on the question of the EU. None of the scientists we work with are going to stop being part of international collaborations. If not, if anything, we are going to see more international collaborations, in part because we are already expanding into Japan, into Korea, into various parts of Asia, especially in the areas of stem cell research, of gene therapy, of the most advanced forms of healthcare. Those are global. If you look at the major research papers, if you look at the major research conferences, the speakers on a panel can be from 10 different countries working on the same project. That is not going to change. So I want to get that message across. London, Cambridge, Oxford is still a hub for international research, and it will remain a hub for international research. Not just because it's central to the economy, because it's central to the science, and it's central to the science internationally. And I do want to put this into a little bit of context. With all the noise about Brexit, I want to give you a sense of balance. Imperial College was founded in 1907. That's a new one. University College London was founded in 1826. King's College is another new one, founded in 1829. Oxford University was founded in 1167. Cambridge University was founded in 1209. So the latter two were formed before the plague. They were formed before the fire of London. They were formed before the Civil War. They were formed before the War of Independence in Ireland. So we've been through a few things, and I don't think those universities are going away. That capacity will remain. If anything, they are more globalized now than they have ever been. Both Oxford, Cambridge, and Imperial have major overseas presence, regardless of what governments decide. They have international affiliation agreements all over the world. Cambridge has major ties with China. UCL has basically got 3 offices in Europe just to coordinate its European work, and 2 in North America. So I did want to give you a little context. There is going to be turbulence over the next while. There is turbulence. There's obviously concern because of a lack of clarity of where we're going with Brexit. However, the foundational aspect of the science, which grows the economy, is not going anywhere soon. I want to say it's got a history. It's got a stability that has way exceeded politics, and it has, at the level of science, a confidence in international engagement, which is the norm of science. So what do we have in the Golden Triangle? We just did a major study that looked at a comparison between Boston, New York, Berlin, Paris, and Barcelona. What made up the mix of a successful biotech cluster? And it was analyzing demand for laboratory space, demand for research space in the London area. And what came back was basically, what was fascinating was you have a balance in London which is pretty much unparalleled. London, Cambridge. Cambridge is literally 60 miles. You can be there in 40 minutes, unless there's leaves on the track. But you can be there from London to Cambridge in 60 minutes. Within that network, you've got this balance between a considerable density of large-scale pharmaceutical. Big pharma are present in all of the clusters. An incredibly rich and international mixture of SMEs. So SMEs in the life science sector, but increasingly there is a convergence between the life sciences and digital health and big data analysis. The new trends are coming together of high-end science in terms of biotechnology with the capacity to analyze that science. So if you imagine a laboratory where you have 32 tandem mass spectrometers, which are very, very high-end genetic analyzers, you've got 32 of them running in tandem. The volume of data that you produce would fill this room with the equivalent of 10,000 phone books within an hour. Now, how do you analyze that data? Genetic testing is all about analytics. So the second convergence of industries we're seeing come together is big data analysis with epidemiology, side by side with genomics and second generation medicine. So what we're seeing in the cluster now is this unique mix where IT is blending with biotech in convergent zones. And this to me is the future of medicine. This is the future of medicine here, it's the future of medicine internationally, and it's fascinating to see how it's evolving physically. And I'll go into a couple of projects that illustrate that are about to open in London, which should be of interest to you. Secondly, we have not just the community of science and the community of life sciences. There's increasingly access to capital. We ourselves at MedCity run a program called Angels in MedCity. We have 120 angel investors. We've taken a long time to grow this community. The finance community in the UK has tended to be fairly conservative, and there was a gulf between the science and the numbers of people required to invest in that science, which is how we started to lose companies overseas to the US. We have very, very consciously worked to grow a large layer of angel investors who are prepared to invest in really high-end science. This is basically stem cell technology, it's gene therapy, it's basically very, very advanced medical technology, such as bioprosthetics. This is in a lovely 3D dress. There is also work going on now on bioprosthetics. Bioprosthetics, if you don't know what they are, is you lose a limb. Traditionally, you'd get some NHS limb that basically doesn't really look like a limb, limited functionality. Latest generation bioprosthetics, that limb can feel. It can touch, it can sense warmth, it can sense cold, it can wiggle its fingers. This is amazing stuff that is bridging together the most basic elements of biology, human biology, with IT and with really advanced manufacturing. In this case, it was made using 3D manufacturing. So we have really vibrant and really creative talent, which is now able to access a capital pool. The last 3 years, each year has seen the highest number of IPOs, so public offerings, in the history of life science IPOs in the UK, to the stage where it has gone up by 50%, 50% increase over 4 years. And that's extremely good news. It means companies, and they're not just UK companies, they're European companies, a lot of European companies, who feel the confidence to be able to launch on the international market, do a major share offering in Europe as opposed to in North America. And that's good for the whole European economy. And so we've been very, very consciously trying to grow that pool. Next is basically major investments in basic science. The commercialization of science relies on, first, as I said, a very, very solid basic research, like a network of scientific capacity in the academic sector, in the hospital sector, and then you have to have the ability to translate it. So of these major investments, probably the largest, and which will be a flagship for the UK and I think for Europe, is the Francis Crick Institute. The Francis Crick Institute is located by St. Pancras Station. It is about the size of 10 aircraft hangars. It is 5 stories up and 4 stories below ground. It's the largest genomic research center in Europe. It's the second largest genomic research center in the world. And it will open in this October. Inside it will be 1,800 research scientists. This project is already funded, it's already built, and it's going ahead. So there will be no slowdown in that. The second is Cell Therapy Catapult. Cell Therapy Catapult is a major leader in the development of cell therapy technologies. Cell therapy technologies are basically, in the simplest terms, are how we understand the most fundamental mechanisms of the human cell, the ability to use the attributes of the human cell to treat an individual with their own cells. So in its essence, it is that simple and that hard. And there's been some amazing breakthroughs in terms of multiple sclerosis that have taken place recently in London, world firsts. And so London is probably next to Tokyo, the center in cell therapy. And so Cell Therapy Catapult is a major player in this and is based at Guy's and St. Thomas's, which is just around the corner, actually, from where Vanessa works, from London Bridge and from London and Partners. Next is we have the NHS. And the NHS is a significant benefit in that we have access in London to about 8 million people who are registered for clinical trials. So a significantly large pool. A very diverse pool, allowing for highly stratified medical studies to take place. And one of the things we've spent the last 2 years working on is creating a single window to be able to do clinical trials in the UK. A single window to be able to do them in London. Like many big cities with a lot of research capacity and a lot of universities, if you wanted to do a major clinical trial, you might have to get 6 ethics approvals, 7 ethics approvals from different universities if you were covering a whole slew of space across London. We have managed to get that down to 1, where there's mutual recognition by the participating organizations, which makes it easier for us to bring in business, for us to bring in international research, to partner. One of the things that people can find extremely frustrating in trying to set up in London in the health sector is it has traditionally been very hard to navigate. It's not like Boston. Boston, you can go to one zone, and basically all of biotech is clustered in one zone. London, it's scattered. London, it is multiple different clusters. It's networked this way, It's not networked in terms of its physical proximity. And so I'll go on to some of the things that we do and we can help with in assisting international research collaborations and commercial collaborations and making them work, and what we do to assist companies. So this is the Francis Crick, as I was talking about earlier. This is right next to King's Cross St Pancras Station, and below ground are 4 floors of additional laboratories, the lowest floor being the animal lab, the next floor up being the floor of tandem mass spectrometry. And this doesn't actually quite capture its height. It's enormous. Right next to this, currently about to begin construction, is the Alan Turing Center. I don't know if you know Alan Turing. He's a famous Nazi code breaker from World War II. Gay scientist who was persecuted and ended up killing himself. But an incredible character in British history. And the Alan Turing Center will be the largest big data analysis center in Europe. It will sit right next to this. Just to imagine what's round here, cross over that road, see where the guy with the bag is? There? Yeah, if you go past that guy, cut through St Pancras Station, the European headquarters of Google are there. So within this zone, you have got a massive concentration of IT, commercial IT, massive basic research capacity in big data, and a huge genomics research center. 5 minutes down the road, you've got the Wellcome Trust. The Wellcome Trust is the largest health charity in Europe. It's the 2nd largest health charity in the world to the Gates Foundation. It's the largest European grant giver. I could go on. So this is just within the Euston Road, King's Cross area. This area is a major area of growth at the moment. I'm currently working with a number of developers on about a £250 million project to set up commercial laboratories next to the Francis Crick. So this is to tell you that whilst you read the financial pages and whilst you read about Brexit, bear in mind, these trains have already left the station. They're already built. And companies are already coming to set up next to them. This is Imperial White City. This is Imperial White City. Imperial White City is built on the site of an old dairy. It's a dairy, and it used to be a dairy and a rail yard. And it's next to the old BBC building, and the one where they used to make Z cars, if there's any old people in the room. Anyway, it's 25 acres, which is completely unheard of for London. Like, to find a new 25-acre development in London is nigh on impossible. But they took an old brownfield zone, completely cleaned it out, and their new Centre for Biomedical Engineering is that grey building. Their new Centre for Molecular Research is that one with trees on top. And the one with the crisscross is their translation hub, that all open in this October. The translation hub will give us something we've lacked for a while, which is new laboratory space. Laboratory space has traditionally been quite hard to find in London because the level of demand hasn't been that high. This brings 5 separate floors, each 18,000 square foot a floor, of brand new laboratory space, plus an additional 7 floors of innovation space for high-tech companies working in digital and biotechnology. This site will be developed over the next 20 years. It will be the 2nd mass Imperial site. The other one is at South Kensington. If you've been to the South Kensington site, you will realize that it is ringed by museums and art galleries, 18th and 19th century buildings, which are impossible to move. So there was no room to grow, hence the move out to White City. So what does success look like for MedCity? Well, it's basically improving the clinical trials setup. It's basically Promoting collaboration. So ensuring that we're doing more and more international research, we're doing more and more international collaboration, that we put in place the mechanisms to support startups. And here I just want to give you, I'll give you a couple of examples of people that we work with. We work with, for example, major Japanese companies who perhaps have got 1 or 2 research links into London. They work in regenerative medicine, but they don't necessarily know their way around. What we will do is immediately link them to the regenerative medicine network, which if you were to try to find it on the internet, could probably take you 2 weeks trying to find it. That network of clinicians means it is a lot easier for them to get connections, to find out who to talk to, and ultimately to decide where is best for them to set up. We then work with the individual sites across the whole Southeast. So we can find a lab for anyone coming to the Southeast, anywhere in that entire zone, with 1 phone call, because we have that set of connections and we have that data. The next is we help companies access financing, and they don't have to be UK companies. We've helped a number of European companies and overseas companies access angel financing and access venture capital financing. And part of that is knowing the sector. Of the venture capital funds, we know who's investing in oncology, we know who's investing in cell therapy, we know who's investing in digital health, and we try and make the right intros for companies attempting to find financing to take their technology to the next stage. So we link innovators, we link networks together, and we help overseas companies navigate London. We help small spin-outs. This could be 3 graduate students. We help them get to the next level of science. But we also work with the massive institutions. So we brought together Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, UCL, King's, and researchers from 20 countries, 20 institutions, who are working on Horizon 2020 projects. And we will still continue working on Horizon 2020 projects. Those projects, we have been assured we are completely eligible for the next 2 years, and we'll continue to push them. And so out of that sort of work, we have seen major research partnerships develop with Japan, with Sweden, with Slovakia, right across, all across Europe and beyond, because Horizon 2020 also has international collaborating partners from outside of the EU. And finally, we help people find the right space. And that means knowing the difference between whether a lab has got a chemistry hood, whether it's set up for biology, what sort of cluster you need to be in, what sort of proximities you need, what's your price point. And that's a unique service, and it's all free. We don't charge for any of our services. We also have coming up 2 or 3 significant projects. We're doing a national medtech design competition with the British Design Council and AXA PPP, who are a major healthcare insurer in the UK. Basically, this is aimed at young medtech, high-end medtech startups. It's a high-profile national competition which starts to recognize and reward innovations in next-generation medical technology. We're also launching a brand new seed fund this October, which is basically for the really early stage startups. So this is literally your grad student who's scratching around for sufficient funds to get to the next level before they're ready for angel investment. And so this is basically what we've tried to do, is create an environment where everything from micro seed fund through to £20 million, £100 million venture capital, that spectrum is covered off. And so that to date has been relatively successful, and we intend to build on that. This is our board. It's pretty much the who's who of British healthcare. So that's our board of directors. And we look forward to actually promoting and continuing to work with collaborators across Europe and across the world I will be around to take questions, and I'm happy to meet with anybody in the one-on-ones later. And I'm sorry if you're not from healthcare, if this was boring. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Phil. Adesso tocca a John Kett, Technology Specialist, UK Trade and Investment. Go.
Yeah, well. Yes, that's it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for staying here with us this afternoon. I just want to give myself a quick introduction. So obviously I don't speak Italian, so I'm sorry for that. But today what I wanted to talk to you about was UKTI. You've heard from my colleagues who talked to you about actually companies coming into the UK. UKTI, Trade and Investment, is an organisation that performs a similar function to London and Partners, except that it looks at the UK more broadly. So London and Partners typically tends to focus on London, whereas UKTI looks at helping to set up companies in and around the UK. So if you're looking at places other than London and you're not quite sure whether you want to come to the UK because you're considering perhaps Germany or Ireland as an alternative, then actually we can help you with your decision by providing you with market research and assistance about deciding whereabouts in the UK you can set up. So I work for the technology team. My background is that I've had over 26 plus years experience in technology. I've worked for large organisations like Tesco as the head of technology and innovation. And actually, UKTI is different from other public sector organisations in that it's constituted by people out of industry. So these people have experience and know how to talk with you as companies. And we talk with startups, we talk with SMEs, and we also talk with large corporates. So we really do provide a service to all companies, no matter what shape or size you are. Now, in terms of actually my background, as I said, I've had a lot of commercial experience, so that actually we have a team of sector specialists who actually can help companies set up and expand in the UK. And the way that UKTI is organised is it's organised by sector. So we have a retail organisation, we have a finance, we have energy, and so forth. And technology is another sector which spans across all of those. So today, what I want to talk to you about is I want to sort of take the conversation a little bit higher level and talk to you about what innovation looks like in the UK and how it works. So talk about the program and talk about actually how the government provides assistance. So I just want to conduct a quick survey. Can you put up your hand if you are in a startup or you're thinking about building a startup? Can I show of hands? Okay, so we've got a few people in the audience. Okay, so before talking about the innovation environment within the UK, what I want to do is sort of talk about the life cycle of a startup, because I think it's quite important. I have a lot of companies come to me and they talk about actually going into the UK and setting up and expanding, and actually there are a number of phases within a startup which I think are important to understand. And sometimes as founders of startups, we get very enthusiastic about wanting to break our own market, the local market, and then go international. And I think it's important to understand where you are in your life cycle and how you move through a startup process. So there's a very good book called Lean Analytics. I'm not sure if it's available in Italian, but it's a very, very well-recognized book. And it's about actually how you build a faster, leaner startup. And this is predominantly the way that companies are going in terms of how they build themselves up and deliver their product or service to market very quickly. And it really is instrumental in terms of actually how you build a startup. And the 5 phases are empathy, stickiness, virality, revenue, and scale. And the book is based on the premise that when you build a startup, you want to go through these 5 phases and you want to have a metric that determines whether you're successful in each stage and when you move to the next stage. You don't have 5 or 10 different metrics. You only have one key metric that's important to tell you how you're doing and how you're performing, and when you get investment and when you go to get investment. So I want to go through these phases very briefly just to give you some background about how a company in its life cycle can develop in the UK. And it applies not just to startups, it applies to organizations who are running projects, who want to try and develop a service or product and release it to market. So the first thing is empathy. So the idea is that, have you got an idea or solution that addresses a problem that people are prepared to pay for? I get a number of companies that come to me that have a good solution, but actually some customers are just not simply prepared to pay for it. So this is an important concept in terms of whatever you're building or product or service you're delivering. And a very good book to determine whether actually you have an addressable market, a market for which you have customers that are interested in buying your solution, is called the MOM test. It's an American book. It's about 100 pages long, and it will take you a couple of hours to read. What this book does is it tells you how to do your market research, how you test the market for your idea without telling them what is it you're actually doing. Because if you were to go to your mother and tell your mother about your idea, of course she's going to encourage you and she's going to be very optimistic. And this is generally what people are like. They always want to encourage you. They always want to be optimistic that you do well. But that's not necessarily the best way to get market research. What you need to understand is what their problem is and how you solve it, right? And this is what this book tells you how to do. The next thing that's important is, who are your competition? If you've got a solution to a problem, what are people doing at the moment? Are there competitors in the market? And you must understand this very clearly, because what are people going to do to prefer your product or service over the competition? Or maybe there's a path of least resistance. Maybe there's a solution in which actually people don't necessarily approach a problem in the way that you're proposing. And actually you might need to educate people about how to go about doing something or delivering a new product or service. So for instance, I have a travel publishing website, a company, and actually the research says that people visit 25 different travel sites before they make a decision on where they want to go. Now, is that a problem? There are some people who enjoy doing the research and actually like doing that because actually they get the most out of their holiday in planning than they actually do going on the holiday. So again, it's about understanding actually what people do and whether there's other competition. And the market is very, very competitive. It's very easy to enter into the travel industry, but it's very, very difficult to break it. So it's really important to understand this. The next stage, stickiness. So you've finally got an idea that you decide that it's worthwhile building, right? That you think people are prepared to pay for. So then you've got to build something. And this is what we talk about, a minimum viable product. What you've got to build is something that's actually the bare minimum that allows you to get out to market as quickly as possible. Not so you can get as many users as possible, but to prove your commercial model. So the idea is you build something, get it out to market very, very quickly. It's very focused, and you demonstrate that you can get people paying for your product or service. That is critically important. You don't want to build everything. You don't want to build all the functionality, all the features, to finally find that actually you can't get someone to pay for it. So it's about retention and engagement. It's about proving that customers are interested in your product and you can bring them back. It's also about understanding your priority. The third stage then is, once you build a product, you need to actually identify how you can get customers. And this is all about lead generation. And this is fundamentally important in actually establishing in your own local market as well as in an international or other markets. So it's about how you're going to do that. And this is critically important. So there's a famous speaker called Guy Kawasaki. He was the Apple evangelist. He's also an entrepreneur and an angel investor. And he says that he sees hundreds of companies a month who promote their idea. And every company has a good idea. But the thing that actually is the most difficult is actually how they promote and get visibility in the market of their idea. And this is the fundamental problem. So it's about how you acquire customers. And you can do that in one of three ways. You can do it because actually you've got a product that is functionally brilliant that everyone wants to use every day, like Gmail when it first started off, or maybe even like Uber. Or you can actually do something that's called artificial virality, where actually you offer some sort of reward system where you encourage people to use your product because you give them some discount or some benefit or bonus. Or actually your product's so good, it travels by word of mouth and actually it spreads socially or virally. So these are the sorts of things you need to think about when you actually are trying to acquire customers, whether it be in your local market or in your international market. So the idea here is the metric that you're measuring is how quickly you can acquire customers, and actually how many customers you can acquire in a short space of time. And ideally, that viral time should reduce as you go down your cycle. Stage 4, revenue. This is a critical point, because once you've actually understood how you're going to acquire customers, you need to understand that the cost of acquiring a customer is cheaper than actually what it costs you to deliver your business, your product or service. And this is a monumental pivot space for, this is the time which companies sometimes pivot, because they discover whether their product is viable, whether they can actually run a business because they have a commercially viable model. And this is the point at which founders decide whether actually their product can continue in the market or not. So this is what we call a pivot point, whether they decide to throw away what they've done or whether they decide to change the direction slightly. And this is important because this comes back to the minimum viable product. If you spend too much time and too much money investing in an idea that's not commercially viable, then you've wasted it. So this is where the minimum viable product is fundamentally important. So at this point, you might need to decide, you know, if I'm not doing so well, where do I need to focus? Do I need to get more revenue per customer? Do I need to be more efficient? Or do I need greater frequency? And in this point, you really need to understand how you're going to achieve those things. So the last stage is scale. So once you've proven yourself in your local market, you need to then look at actually how you go to other markets or how you go international. Because once you've proven yourself in a local market, you then need to consider how you scale internationally. And not all markets are the same. Markets behave differently. What is very, very successful here might not be successful in the UK. So again, you need to go back to stage 1. You need to understand your market. You need to understand your competitors. And this is fundamentally important. And I get a lot of companies that come to me that say, we want to come to the UK, but they haven't done their market research. They think that because they're successful in their local market, they can survive in a UK market. Now, the UK market is fantastic because actually you have, you know, a customer base of 60 to 65 million people. And actually, you know, you've got one market. It's not like India where you've got 6 different markets. But the challenge with the UK is that actually it's a competitive and highly sophisticated market. You heard my colleagues speak about e-commerce. You know, we have people in the UK per head, per annum, who spend £2,200 as a minimum each year on e-commerce. So this is the reason why it's a growing industry. So you really need to look at your business development plan for this new market, for the UK, if you're going to come to the UK. And you need to think about your sales and marketing strategy. So that means, you know, who you're going to focus on, because you can't look at the entire 65 million population. You need to actually focus and target because you don't have the resources to actually cover everyone. You need to think about, you know, your cost or your differentiation. Are you going to compete against your competitors on cost, or are you offering something different? So if you can't differentiate yourself, how are you going to displace your existing competitors or what customers are currently doing? Again, it's fundamentally important. So you need to try and demonstrate how you're going to be unique. And importantly, when you go to a company and you say that your service or product is better than the competitors, you need to assure a company that's actually buying that product or service that either you're saving them money and you're doing that by at least 30%, because otherwise they're not going to take the risk, or actually you're going to make the money and you can double their money or triple their money, because actually, again, they're not going to take the risk, because when you say to a company that you can double or triple their revenues, they're going to be a little bit skeptical maybe. So you need to be able to demonstrate, again, how you're going to do that. So the reason why I've mentioned all this is because this is fundamentally important when you come to the UK, and these are the major considerations, and they apply to every sort of company, whether they're small, medium, or large. So now what I want to do is I want to talk about the innovation landscape and how UKTI can help you as an organisation. So the first thing is that what the UK government has done has provided a very mature innovation landscape. It's very, very complicated. And as you can see, and I don't expect you to read everything on this diagram, it is quite sophisticated. There are lots of organisations and relationships between the organisations. But the 3 things I want you to note are the yellow, green, and purple circles. The principal objective of the UK government is to get businesses, universities, and government collaborating together for the commercial development of solutions. So that is to take existing research and development and commercialize and put into the commercial world and solve industry problems. So if you are doing this This is actually where the government provides you with support. So what the government has done is it's actually, in the last 6 years, provided a fiscal policy, i.e. tax incentives, to encourage innovation. And it does that in 2 ways. It provides tax breaks through what's called Enterprise Investment Scheme for investors to invest in companies. And actually investors can invest up to £250,000 and get a 30% tax break. And if they lose that money because the company goes bust, they can write that money off against their tax. So this is significant. This has created an environment where you have a large number of angel investors now investing in small companies. And this is the reason why the UK is actually booming in terms of angel investment funding. Now, it's not good enough that you invest in companies and provide money, but you also have to encourage companies to innovate. And the best way to do that is the government have actually provided what's called research and development tax credits. So if you're a company that's developing in the UK and developing innovative solutions, then you can qualify for a tax credit. So everything that you spend, you can get a tax deduction for. So I ran a travel publishing company, and actually a travel publishing company in itself is not innovative, but I qualified for research and development tax credits, and I got a rebate of about £40,000 per year. So if you're employing people and you're developing software or products or services, that's quite significant. So if you're earning profit, so I was loss making, so I got about a 30% tax rebate. If you're profit making, you can get a 230% tax deduction, which is significant. So you need to have both sides of the equation. You need to have the input into the company, and you need to have something that encourages people to innovate. So we've already talked about collaboration. The principal way in which the government creates this ecosystem is to ensure that people collaborate, and that's businesses, universities, and government. So there's an organisation called Innovate UK, which is a government organisation that takes all the grant funding or the funding supplied by government and invests in companies, and it decides which areas that it will invest, and it's aligned to various sectors, which I'll talk more about in a minute. So how does the government actually achieve all of this? Why is the UK such a great place to actually set up and expand your business? It's because it's provided an innovation landscape comprised of 3 central things: access to finance, so how companies can get access to finance, how it can get access to talent, and how it can get access to infrastructure. And I'm going to go through those very quickly now. So you can get government funding, or you can actually get angels and venture capitalists funding. Government funding is actually supplied against industry priorities. So if you're in 8 of the great sectors the government give priority, and that is big data, satellite technologies, robotics and autonomous machines, synthetic biology, you've got agri-science, you've got advanced manufacturing, or you've got energy storage. If you're in any one of those sectors, then actually you can qualify for priority funding. And the funding typically tends to be match funded. So you need to raise some money yourself, but then the government can match fund you anywhere from between 25 to 100%. To be eligible for this funding, you need to actually have a UK company, and you need to be operating in the UK. And actually, if you work collaboratively with a university or another UK business, that qualifies you even more for this sort of funding. Funding can be anywhere from between £5,000 up to £1 million, depending upon what you're doing. So the other environment that I talked about is if you want to get investment from more traditional route is angels and venture capitalists. And I've already talked about how mature and how rapidly growing that, that market is. Now we're almost probably advanced in terms of actually America, in terms of investment in fintech type solutions. And another growing sector is e-commerce. So we've seen massive amounts of investment into e-commerce companies. So companies like Farfetch, Made.com, and Secret Escapes. So very quickly, I want to go through what's the life cycle of an investment for a company. So typically, a company will go through 1, 2, 3, or 4 investment rounds. If you're lucky enough to be valued market at £20 billion, you might get an E and F, but they're very, very unusual. And typically, when you go through the life cycle of your company, you can see investments from between $50,000, and I put them in US dollars simply because that's the general currency for investment, all the way up to $250,000, up to $100 million when you're going for scaling and entering in other markets. And typically, the angel environment for investment is actually growing, and it's actually become quite mature because of these taxation schemes that I've talked about. So you've got a number of angel funds where investors are investing significant amounts of money to invest in startups. And we're talking angel funds which can be into the millions of pounds, tens of millions of pounds, to the point where it could be classified as maybe early stage or mid-stage VC investment. So in terms of actually early stage VC, so investments of 250 up to a couple of million, the market for venture capitalists is huge, and you can see there's an inordinate number of investors actually in the UK willing to invest in businesses. So this is something that's actually grown in the last 5 years, again as a result of the government's policy. It's probably the strongest VC community outside of the US. If you're in the situation where you need $100 million US to invest in your company, the number of investors in the UK is smaller than the US, but we're increasingly getting a number of investors from the US coming into the UK. And actually, what we'll find is as we get more international public offerings where people sell their companies, you will see an increase in the sorts of investors who are prepared to invest these amounts of money. So very quickly, I want to talk about access to talent. So access to talent really is about getting resources and skills for your company. So I want to talk very quickly about the Technation report, which is a report you can get offline, which is produced by Tech City UK, which is the organisation that's responsible for stimulating innovation within technology across the UK. And this report is in its second revision, and it's a survey of 58,000 companies across the UK. And here, what it does is it identifies where all the different technology clusters are for technology. So if it happens that you are in digital media, you don't have to be based in London. In fact, the highest concentration of digital media companies is actually in Brighton, which is in the south of the UK. So if you're in creative or digital media, that might be a place you want to go if you don't want to bear the burden of the cost in London. And actually, it's still accessible to London. So there are also clusters in and around the major centres, like Manchester, like Leeds, and further up north in Newcastle. So this is actually what we can do, is we can help you, UKTI can help you decide where you might be better placed. So in terms of the top sectors, application development and software development is number one. You then have data management and analytics. So big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence is in huge demand in the UK and in fact across the world. And there is going to be a skills shortage of these sorts of technology professions. So other key areas, as I said, e-commerce, machine learning, artificial intelligence, smart cities and Internet of Things is also a massive boom area. Cloud and data centers, cyber security is also another area within the UK. Mobile content, interactive advertising, films and games animation. I won't go through all the report because you can download it and you can see it for yourself. So in terms of access to talent, we have two significant organisations. Access to talent gives you the opportunity to get access to industry specialists. We've talked about some of that today through my colleagues who have made you aware of various institutions for where you can get access to industry specialists. You can also get access to universities. So this is another major area where actually organisations can have postgraduate or post PhDs get involved in their organisations to help them with further research and development for the commercialisation of your product or service. So in order to get access to industry, we have an organisation called the Knowledge Transfer Network. And this is an organisation which is a membership for which actually there's a specialist who's connected to industry who can introduce you to other experts or other businesses who are in your field in technology. And they have specialists covering all teams, and they're constituted by people like myself. We have a number of research councils, 7 research councils in the UK that are focused on looking at what universities can provide in terms of research and development capability. And what they do is they create areas of specializations across certain universities. So in the case of, say, maybe the University of Edinburgh, they specialize in data science. In the case of maybe the Royal Holloway, University of London, they specialise in cybersecurity. So the research councils actually designate universities with specialist capability, and then they dedicate or they set up centres for doctoral training where they actually get their PhD students to train and provide help or input into businesses for commercial development. And this is the reason why actually businesses do quite well when they collaborate with universities in the UK. Right, the third and last point is access to infrastructure. So the UK has grown massively with the startup industry. We have a number of co-working spaces, and these spaces are fantastic places for you to set up. Or if you are a large organisation, you don't want to necessarily set up and get a lease for an office. You can actually co-locate in a small space with other companies while you do your market research and while you consider how you're going to set up. And one of the benefits of these spaces is they attract quite a lot of investors, and they attract mentors, people who actually you can speak with, who are entrepreneurs themselves, who have been there and done that, who understand the local market, or actually other companies in the same field as yourself. You also have regional co-working spaces. So again, you don't have to be based in London. So we already talked about one of those working spaces, central working. These central working spaces, or sorry, these co-working spaces typically tend to run accelerators, and they have, accelerators or incubators that run in the same spaces. So again, you can benefit for some of the activities that these accelerators bring. So when we talk about accelerators and incubators, you've got accelerators, the highest concentration accelerators and incubators in London. It's actually the biggest concentration out of all of Europe. And you've actually also got sector-specific accelerators. So if you're in cybersecurity, there's Cylon, which is based in central London, which focuses purely on cybersecurity. If you're doing anything to do with education, EdTech, then you've got EdTech UK. Again, Healthbox was already mentioned today, relevant to various other sectors. If you don't want to be based in London, there are regional accelerators that you can join, Ignite, and I'm going to talk about a program by which actually you can go out to the regions and you can become part of an accelerator if you consider yourself to be an entrepreneur that wants to move to the UK. You also have corporate-backed accelerators or incubators. So you've got ones called JLab, which is John Lewis, and these corporate-backed incubators, what they do is they provide a longer program for companies where actually these corporate bodies help companies expand and grow into other markets or across the UK. So we already had a discussion around infrastructure concerning the Alan Turing Institute. So my colleague Phil talked about the centre of London, King's Cross, being an area where there's a co-location of quite a lot of institutes, one of which is the Alan Turing Institute, which is the Institute for Data Science. It's based in King's Cross, which is now referred to as London's Knowledge Centre because of all the institutes that are setting up around there. It's focusing on working with businesses and universities to further the commercial development in data science of advanced solutions. So at the moment, they're forming strategic partnerships, and in the future, they'll work with businesses to actually advance commercial development. So if you're in data science, there's an opportunity in the future to work with one of these institutes to where you can get access to other businesses like Intel, or actually other universities like King's College, or actually University College London, Imperial, Oxford, or Cambridge. So you also have catapults, and I want to bring this up because this is fairly important. We talked about the stem cell catapult, but at a higher level, there are 11 catapults based around the UK. These catapults are set up to allow small companies to work with larger companies, because the view is that a small company cannot grow and expand and potentially go international through funding and access to talent alone. It needs help from larger organizations. So these catapults are set up to allow small companies to collaborate with larger organizations where there's a collaboration and sharing of information and resource. So there's catapults aligned to various sector industries. We already heard about cell therapy. There are others in things like future cities, things like digital, which is about the sharing of data, proprietary or customer data. And these catapults provide a framework with both commercial and legal to help companies actually openly collaborate. So if you're a small company and you want access to Shell, and Shell actually have a commercial problem where they want to track the number of people going into their petrol filling stations, and you're a small company that actually is able to track these people using their mobile devices, then you can attend a day workshop where you can present this idea or solution to someone like Shell, and then actually you can go off and develop a solution with Shell if they decide that it's something they want to continue further forward. And that's a service all provided free of charge. You don't pay, and you get access to these large corporate bodies. So it's a very, very way of sharing information. And as a small company, you can share that information and your solution without fear of that company taking your intellectual property. And actually the large organization can share its data without fear that you're going to use it for another purpose. So these catapults are very, very important for stimulating innovation. But you can only have access to these sorts of services if you're based in the UK and you're operating in the UK. You can't just do that if you're a foreign company, by and large. Right, so I'd like to conclude by sort of saying how trade and investment can help you. So I work on the investment side, so my responsibility is to support foreign international companies. My market is Italy and Spain, as well as most of Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. So if you're interested in finding out more, then please feel free to come up and speak with me after the presentations today. I think the most important part is that I help companies come into the UK, set up and expand. But once you are based in the UK, if you want to expand to other markets across the world, UK Trade Investment have international trade advisors, specialists again, who are out of industry, who understand those local markets, who can help you expand globally. And this is fundamentally important in terms of actually making sure your business prospers, say across Europe or in the United States. We have a global network of offices and staff all around the world, and we also provide offices throughout the UK. So the fundamental point here is to understand that actually we're not a government organisation just simply built from bureaucrats and public servants. We are industry specialists who know how to speak with you. So, final couple of slides. So if you're interested in setting up in the UK and you just want to set up a sales and marketing office, UKTI doesn't do your business development or sales and marketing or lead generation. But what we do is we understand where you are in your life cycle and where you are in which stage of your business. And then if we understand that very clearly, then we understand the requirements you have, and then we refer you to organisations who can help you successfully set up and expand. And these are organisations who have had experience from your own markets and who also understand the UK market. And they're companies like J&B Partnerships, Trade Horizons, and International Management Answers, who are business development companies who will actually help you set up and do sales and marketing and lead generation. So these are companies you can approach that we can refer you to that can help you with setting up your businesses. And they have several use cases or case studies where companies have done this successfully, most likely from your own market. Right, one more thing, final slide. So what I want to talk to you very quickly about today is the Global Entrepreneur Program. This is a program offered by UKTI. So if you're an aspiring entrepreneur who's had successful experience as an entrepreneur, or you think you've got an idea that's entrepreneurial, then actually the UK will help you through UKTI relocate your business to the UK. And it's done that successfully for 340 businesses. It's created over 1,000 jobs and £1 billion of private investment. And actually, if you can get onto this program, what we do is we actually have deal makers who themselves are entrepreneurs. There are 22 of them around the world who actually provide their time free of charge to help you with advice in terms of business development, sales and marketing, lead generation. They'll help you build your business and give you advice. And they'll also provide you access to their own personal networks, as well as actually the network that UKTI offer. And you can also get on accelerators or incubators, and you might be eligible for some funding for relocation. So this is a highly popular program. What you need to have to be eligible for this program is you need to be entrepreneurial-led. You need to be incorporated in the UK, so you need to have a company in the UK. You need to have intellectual property, so you can't just be a services-based organisation, and you need to have global growth capability. And even if you meet that criteria, we have a limited number of deal makers. So it's up to them as to which companies they then want to take on board if you meet that criteria. So it's a highly competitive program, but also very, very successful. And I've just recently had a company from Norway who actually deal in travel space, which actually they've successfully managed to get onto the GEP program just last week. Right, that's all. Sorry for taking so long. We overran a little bit, so sorry for that. But hopefully the information's been useful, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Capite perché insomma la differenza qual è? Io ho scritto l'ultima frase, no? Support is free, but entry into the program is highly competitive. Se non impariamo da loro, allora io volevo dire questo. Io credo che questa mattinata, intanto we thank for your collaboration, Vanessa, two Vanessas, thank John, Phil for your. I hope in future to collaborate too. Ok? Dopodiché volevo dirvi solo due cose per poi lasciare la parola alla nostra al panel e alla nostra Eliana Marino che coordinerà questo panel. Voglio dire due cose. Io credo che chi di voi è presente stamattina a questo evento dovrebbe approfittarne moltissimo, perché abbiamo avuto, diciamo, ormai abbiamo strutturato questa collaborazione con il progetto di Enterprise, con la London Chamber, e credo che sia un'occasione che non vada persa, soprattutto da chi ha già contatti, da chi sta lavorando a Londra, da chi spera di lavorarci, ma noi la collaborazione che vogliamo avviare è anche la possibilità di far conoscere la nostra regione e offrire opportunità, seppure il contesto insomma è un po' complicato, però noi siamo qua a fare i facilitatori. L'altra cosa che volevo dire, io spero che abbiate apprezzato anche, diciamo, la giornata di oggi, ma non sapete, diciamo, il lavoro che ci sta dietro, per cui volevo ringraziare Giada Platania, Antonella Benigno, perché insomma questa giornata che abbiamo messo a vostra disposizione è frutto di questo lavoro duro anche.